Good evening, everyone. I figured that I had a spontaneous idea to do a Halloween midnight special tonight. So I thought we would look at some old Magic the Gathering card arts like I do sometimes with Pokemon. Well, today we're doing Magic. Specifically, we're looking at old vintage cards that date from when the game first released with Alpha and Beta in 1993 up until Onslaught block, the last block to use the old vintage frame in 2002. So we're looking at about the first third of Magic's history. All the cards are old frame cards. You'll notice back in that era, core sets generally had white borders, and the story sets, the block sets, usually had black borders. White border usually denoted reprint back then. Nowadays, everything's a black border. They changed that when they introduced the new frame in 2003. And I thought that this would be an appropriate Halloween special because a lot of the old black in particular, the black faction cards, a lot of them back then and even still now are spooky and give off Halloween vibes. But so I thought this would be a nice Halloween special. Now, we'll be talking mostly about the art. I'm not going to focus too much on what the cards actually do. One moment. I want to make sure we're working. One moment. I want to make... Alright, yeah, okay. We're working. So let's switch over. First, the back. The Magic the Gathering card back was designed way back when to look like the cover of a spell book. And you can see what's on the bottom. It says Deck Master. That was in the very early days of the TCG industry when Wizards was first inventing TCGs. They came up with 4 games that they released under the Deck Master brand. Magic's the only one that was successful and survived more than a couple of years. But because all the card backs were printed with Deck Master, they have to keep printing them. To this day, all the many thousands of official Magic cards have this back, except for double-sided cards, which came much later. I think they were introduced about 8-9 years ago, so well after the period of time we're looking at today. You can see the color wheel on the back. White is generally castles, heroes, knights. Blue is oceans and magic. Black is death, disease. Red is fire and destruction. And green is forests and growth. That's an oversimplification of things. But let's go ahead and take a look at these arts. Conquer from 6th edition. You control enchanted land. That's an interesting red. That's a very good red enchantment. I like this art. It shows a warrior standing proudly over slain bodies on the land they conquered. It's a nice snowy scene, suggesting to me that this may have been originally printed during the Ice Age block. This was the 6th edition printing, so it's a reprint set. I cannot, when it comes to the reprint sets, I cannot tell you which set the card was in originally because I do not know all the card histories. I do not actually collect Magic. I had a collection back around this time, but a small collection. But I never really followed it until a couple of years ago, and even then, I just look at all the card images. I don't actually collect them right now. Fictional Flute. This is an artifact from Urza's Saga. Looks like it's a rare. Search your library for a creature card, blah blah. Reveal that card and put it in your hand. So basically this allows you to summon bring a creature from your deck into your hand. So it doesn't even put into play. So this is kind of expensive to play. I don't know how expensive it is in terms of money. Like I said, I don't really... I know some of these cards are worth some money. Alright, so card art. It's a very close-up of an old man playing a flute with a forest in the background. Oh, and this is kind of spooky. You can see the eyes of the creatures that he is attracting in the back. That's kind of a spooky effect. Very Halloween appropriate, even though this is not a black card. This is an artifact. And the flute itself, that's beautiful. It's carved with animal totems. I want that flute now. Too bad that flute doesn't really exist. Dregs of Sorrow, 7th edition. Destroy X target non-black creatures, draw X cards. That's a cool effect. We live for 1,000 years. The death of even one brings untold sorrow. Elvish Elder. And you can see those are definitely some bad... That's definitely a bad guy coming through in the foreground. Looks like he's fighting against 2 warriors that are behind him. 3 warriors behind him, surrounding him. The knight in black armor looks crazy. The one soldier looks like he's wounded or raging or something. And this is a very nice action scene. I like this art. Legends! Rasputin Dreamweaver. He is a white and blue creature. Alright, he looks like a wizard. I like this art style. It's done in a white, black, and red. I like the color scheme. I like the simple sketch arts like this. You see them a lot in old cards, but modern cards don't really have that. Modern cards have a more unified look, which you don't really get in a... I like how in old Magic, a lot of the cards had varied art styles. You had some realistic looking ones, you had cartoony ones, and that kind of all... They kind of downplayed that to make the art more unified as time went on. So I really like when there's unique arts like this one. Legends was an interesting set because it wasn't the first set to have multicolor cards, but it was I think, but it was the first set to really put a focus on them. And there were something like 55 collectible legend characters like this. There were 55. I think it was 55, in addition to all the other cards of the set. But as for the art, he's a wizard. Looks like some burning trees in the background, or not trees. Those are corpses on sticks. It looks like. Yeah, that's a fire with corpses on sticks and an evil-looking staff. Even though this is a white-blue card, the character's depiction, he makes me think of black-red. Inappropriate color matching here, perhaps? I've spent a long time on this one card. Let's go on and see some more art. There's literally hundreds of these vintage cards. Constant Mists. This is Stronghold, I think. Okay. Looks like a hunting party. And so you can see some goblin shadows in the background over here. And they're in a forest, or is that a cave? I can't really tell, but the goblins can't see the elves, and the elves can't see the goblins because the mists. I like the effect of the mist making the monsters back here fade from view. That's a cool effect, and also how the mist makes the background ill-defined, so you can't tell exactly where they are. And the two warriors up front looking confused. I like this art. I'm gonna, you know what? 9 out of 10 for this art. I'm not gonna do a number scale. I don't think it's necessary. 6th edition, the Avenant Archer. It's a 3-drop for a 1/2. Not that great, but it does have an okay ability. Avenant's archers are also trained as poets, so that each arrow is guided by a fragment of verse. Now that actually, knowing the flavor text, that actually lends some flavor to the art. Nondescript background, but man, that's a very tough and brave looking warrior lady getting ready to go into battle and shoot some enemies, I guess. I like this art. This is one of the classic arts. When I started my card scans, I remembered this from a card that used to be in my high school collection many, many years ago. Don't ask me what happened to that collection. Haven't seen the cards in years. Avatar of Hope. This is from Prophecy. Let me check on that. Yeah, that's Prophecy. I have a cheat sheet of the set symbols. Give me one moment. Alright, I'm back. Alright, so it's an avatar. It looks like it's kind of an angel avatar. Interesting. It's got a really good ability. It's really strong. This would have been one of the power cards back in the day. Not power, I shouldn't say power. Because Magic fans, true Magic fans who actually collect and stuff, they use power to refer to a specific set of 9 cards that have not been printed since Unlimited. Because they were too powerful and Wizards blocked them almost immediately. But this is, I should say instead, this is a powerful card. Big difference in meaning there. This is a, yeah, I like this card. As for the art, it looks like an angel spirit creature thing. Yeah, a warrior angel spirit. Pretty staff. And that's an interesting cloud formation behind it. That's a very interesting cloud. Almost makes it look like the cloud's on fire. It gives this card a nice, this card has a very nice color arrangement and composition. I'm in love with this art. I might make some of these arts wallpapers later. Yeah, that's a good art. Okay, Ice Age, classic Ice Age. Trailblazer. Basically what looks like a scout on a horse. Close up on the scout so you can't see you can see that he's riding a horse, but you can't tell anything about the horse. Our elvish hunter Taveti led us swiftly along hidden paths through the dense forest. We caught the orcs from behind and completely by surprise. Lucille Fixdaughter, leader of the Order of the White Shield. Was there a flavor text? No. Alright. So yeah, there's really not much to say about this one. Scout, close-up of a scout on a horse. That's either a forest or a stone wall behind him. You can't really tell the way the background is designed. Fire Tempest. This is from Starter. 6 damage to each creature and player, including yourself. Interesting. As for the art, it's just an inferno. The full frame is taken up by a blazing hot inferno with dark, ominous smoke and 2 shadowed figures running in terror from the flame. Can they escape in time? Man, that's hot. This is almost a spooky looking art. Almost. Wow. I like... It's arts like this, the action scenes like this, that really capture the spirit of the moment. A comment that I often make in the Pokemon card art series as well. Scarwood Goblins. This is a green-red creature from the dark. Larger and more cunning than most goblins, Scarwood Goblins are thankfully found only in isolated pockets. So they must be tiny then. Let me see. None hiding here. And that is a spooky-looking goblin. The war paint on him. His face almost looks skeletal. Those berries on the vines around him look nice. Those berries on the trees. Maybe he's getting ready to have a snack. He's protecting his snack trees, it looks like. That's a mean-looking weapon. That's definitely going to kill a few people. All around, mean-looking. I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark street. That's really all there is to this one. Evil Goblin. Move on. Ray of Revelation. This is from Judgment, I'm tempted to say. Well, I will check that one. I want to be accurate with the set identifications. Yeah, that's Judgment. Alright. Webs of illusion unravel in the light of truth. Wizard. I'm tempted to say that's Gandalf the White, because he's in a very similar robe, but I know it's not. And he's doing a vision spell to cast rays of pure white light. And you can see goblins hiding in the cave near him. Those goblins are kind of creepy and evil, almost zombie goblin looking. And around the cave there's beautiful green grass and flowers. Overall, this is a very interesting composition. They don't make magic card arts like they used to, that's for sure. This is a very interesting scene. Wild Esther, which is a bird. This is... I think that flag is alliances. I'm pretty sure that's alliances. High in the Carplusans, Death is swift and razor-clawed. Arna Kennerid, Sky Captain. Interesting. It's a bird. Looks like a bird of prey, actually. Or what bird fans would call a raptor. A raptor is a special term in bird watching for carnivorous birds. Close-up of a bird against a background. Can't really tell what's going on in the background. Looks... It's because it's at a weird perspective. Are those fields down there? I do see a very obvious storm cloud with a lightning bolt, though. So that's a nice touch. Not too keen on the composition on this one. But overall, it's still a pretty fun-looking art. Generally, I'll like a card art more if I can figure out what's going on in it. And since I can't tell exactly how this bird is positioned relative to the ground and the sky, because... Oh, is that a blue glow around it as well? Again, can't really tell what's going on with this composition. Still a nice card. Jasmine Boreal, white-green legend. Peace must prevail, even if the wicked must die. Definitely agreement. Pretty lady with crazy hair blowing in the wind. And that's a very nice ivory star weapon that she is holding. Is that a weapon? May just be a prop. I know that there's an artifact called Ivory Star in some of the early core sets, but I don't remember what it does. I think that one's part of a cycle, though. War Elephant. Arabian Nights. The very first expansion. And the only expansion that they did based on pre-existing lore. After Arabian Nights, they decided to tell their own story. And they didn't revisit the concept until many, many, many years later. In fact, this year, when they did a set based on Dungeons and Dragons. How many years is that? Arabian Nights would have been 93, 94. So 27 years it took them to do the next set based on pre-existing lore. Unless you count the Global Series dual deck, which is based on Chinese mythology. I take that back. Portal 3 Kingdoms in the late 90s, a set that was not widely released except in China, is a starter set that was based around the Three Kingdoms period of Chinese history. When the elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Kikuyu proverb. Okay, so the art itself. A red, deserty background with a red, dusty sky. You can kind of see shadows of a savanna tree or two in the background. But the elephant itself, taking up the central part of the frame. Close up. It's weirdly drawn in that it looks like it doesn't have back legs, but you can tell they're hiding behind the front legs. And the eye is kind of weirdly drawn. It looks like it's either missing its eye or its eye is solid black. I think the author was going for, hey, it's dusty, the eyes are closed. But the card art just makes it look like the eye is soulless. But, you know, the soulless dark eyes that I talk about when, it's like if an eye is solid white or solid black, it looks like the creature is, weird. But whatever. It's, other than the weird looking eye, the creature is pretty cute. It's cute for an elephant. It's not really tough looking. Trample and banding. Trample is one of the evergreen keywords that's still in the game to this day. There's like 7 or 8 keywords. Maybe it's a dozen that have been in existence since the very earliest sets that they still use. They're called the evergreen keywords. Things like flying, trample, first strike, haste. Those are some of the big ones. Banding. That's a thing that hasn't seen the light of day since the early sets. And that's because nobody knew how to use it properly. There's so many memes about what banding is and isn't. And even the magic experts, many of them don't know for sure. I know I don't understand it. And I'm not even going to try to guess what it might be. Just because I don't want to make myself sound too stupid on stream. Next card. Gravedigger. A zombie. A zombie who... wow. A full coffin is like a full coffer. Both are attractive to thieves. So I guess he's a zombie who goes out and finds bodies to make other zombies. Interesting. As for the art, looks like a zombie pulling a dead man out of a grave. You can see the shovel over there. Not really much else to say about this one. Bone Dancer. Another zombie. Alright. This is an interesting, very thin zombie. It looks like he has accessorized using pieces of bone, and he's dancing on a pile of skeletons. Is that a fire behind him? I can't really tell what's going on behind him. This is a very spooky, creepy art. Very fitting for Halloween night. One moment. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to go. I am getting tired. But I thought I would come in and do a midnight special. Darkwood boars. No set symbol. So this would be core. This would be... crap, I don't know. 2000. Would that have been... I think 6th edition is when they started printing the set number for the core sets. 2000. So would that have been 5th edition maybe? Possibly. Hard to say for sure. And the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine, and the herd ran violently. So this is... they're basically a bunch of wild pigs. The grass is strangely white. I can see what looks like the motion line suggesting wind in the middle of the pigs. The pigs themselves look very mean. Those are some pretty sharp teeth for pigs. These creatures are ugly and creepy looking. I'm not going to stay on this one too long. Counterspell. This is one of those classic cards that gets reprinted every year. Onslaught. Circle. Gosh, I don't remember what the M circle logo is. I'm not sure if that's like some kind of promo thing or something. I know that's not a regular set. But counter spells as basic as card effects go. Counter target spell. And this looks like a person and a magic blast. I can't tell whether that person is on the giving or the receiving end of the counter spell. Actually, is that some kind of lady? Yeah, that looks like it's actually a lady. I said he. Sorry about that. Pretty sure that's a girl, now that I look at it some more. She's got a nice dress, though. Simoon. Red-green. Visions. Okay. The black and white sacred monkey holds her children to her and waits. Love song of night and day. So, okay, so we see a picture holding her two picture of a monkey holding her two babies, clinging to the tree trunk in the foreground. The tree branch, I mean. So we see the tree branch in the foreground, and in the background we see what looks like a river, and beyond that, plains that look like they're on fire. Definitely some kind of brush fire going on in the world behind this tree. Pretty river, though. That's one brave and strong monkey, that's for sure. Hunter Sliver. Oh, the slivers. Card symbol, quick. Legions. I should have remembered, because slivers were only done in a few sets. They only bring out the slivers when they're part of a story that they want to tell. So, and they actually haven't done slivers much in recent years. The cool thing about slivers, when a sliver comes into play, all other slivers get that sliver's ability. So you can actually build an unstoppable deck with the right combination of slivers. Once they get the scent, there is no escape. Oh, interesting. So, as for slivers, this is one of the, this is a thin, agile-looking sliver on the hunt, nondescript background. Looks like it's popping out of a dust storm, the fog of a dust storm. Okay, next card. Carnacid, Stronghold. This one has regenerate. Regenerate was an evergreen keyword, but I think well, in the last couple of years they phased it out. I think there was one evergreen keyword from like the very first sets that they phased out a few years ago. I think it's regenerate, but I'm not sure. The hunter would never forget the time or place where he first met the Carnacid, for they buried him there. So it's some kind of beast. That's an ugly looking beast, standing on his piece of rock, looking proud and majestic, but ugly at the same time. And it's either sunrise or sunset behind him, because you can see the sky. It's not dark enough to be night, but not bright enough to be day. Those are some nice clouds behind him, though. But yeah, that is one ugly beast. Pradish Gypsies. Legends. Alright. So it's a group of travelers, gypsy travelers, with a beautiful brown horse. That's some... And there's a nice little forest behind them. I like this art style. Elegant, but simple. Like, you can tell who they're supposed to be and where they are. This is another one that I remember having in my collection back in high school. Civi's Valor. Nemesis? Yeah, Nemesis. Interesting. So it looks like a warrior. And behind the warrior, a lady, a girl lying on the ground. And then what looks like some kind of spirit person in the front blocking the warrior. Interesting. I can't really tell what's supposed to be happening in this picture, but I can tell that it's definitely a scene of action. Something's going on. I just can't tell exactly what. That is a nice armor suit, I will say. Foresian Brigade. This is Weatherlight. The book is Weatherlight. A double-edged sword lets you cut down your enemies with a backswing as well. Gerard of the Weatherlight. So this is a two-headed giant, it looks like. And in the picture, he's fighting against a group of soldiers. The soldiers all have spears. And he looks unhappy. He looks angry. Well, giants are typically portrayed as evil in early Magic, but this is not an evil giant because he's in white. So the soldiers are the bad guys? I'm not really sure. This picture is kind of unclear as to who's the bad guys and who's the good guys. And the background is the shadow of a mountain with either a sunset or a fire behind it. This is a pretty good art. Charging Paladin. Starter set. A true warrior's thoughts are of victory, not death. So here we have a knight in armor with a flowing white cape and a long blue plume on his helmet. And he's riding a horse that's also covered in golden armor. And he's charging right at the viewer. spear pointed forward towards the front, but slightly off to the side, so as not to actually look like he's attacking the viewer, but like he's charging the viewer. Not really any background going on, but you can see the dust being kicked up behind the horse. I like this art. This art is, what's the word? Striking, I guess I would say. Keeper of the Flame. This is Exodus. So we're looking at a sorceress girl. Pretty flowing hair. Very nice red dress. And she's on fire. Literally. This lady is hot. She's smoking. Okay, enough jokes, enough puns aside. Alright. Behind her, the mountain in shadow. Mountain not shown in detail because the artist wanted to keep the sorceress girl in focus. Good choice on his part. That's one hot lady you'll never forget. Sorry, I did it again. Okay, I'd better move on. Mersane. Fallen Empires. Alright, so it looks like a net, a merfolk man getting trapped in a net. He looks very upset. He looks even a little scared. I sometimes like when the card arts show a character being scared, because most of the time they just show the character being tough or proud. So when it shows actual fear, because some of these effects can be quite devastating. And that net cast in the ocean. Yeah, not much to say about this one. Fallen Empires is interesting because it was one of the last few sets before they started introducing the concept of blocks. And of all the really, really old vintage sets, Fallen Empires is, from what I heard, still relatively affordable compared with some of the others. Shimmering Barrier, Urza Saga. This is a creature type called a wall. Back then they were called walls. Now wall cards are noted by keyword defender instead of having the typing of wall. So walls are block only, but this one does have first strike. As for a card, it's a lady. Looks like some kind of sorceress lady. She's against a abstract background, which looks like it represents fields, kind of structure in the way back. And in front of her, shimmering white rectangles, glowy things. Basically her magic wall that she created. I don't really know how else to describe this. Wing Shards. Scourge. Interesting. So, it's an owl, and the owl is shooting its feathers, or that look really sharp. The owl itself is standing on what looks like the very top of a mountain. So high it's almost out of frame, with some nice blue sky and purplish clouds behind him. The color of the clouds suggests that this is during dawn or dusk. The owl itself is in a majestic pose. I like this card. Firebolt. Reach out and torch someone. Oh, that's a punny flavor text. Okay, so this looks like it's a dragon spitting fire. It looks like it's inside a lava cave. So much of the card is consumed by the dragon's face in the fire that I can't really make out any details beyond the head area of the dragon. But yeah, that definitely looks like some powerful fire. Mobilization. Onslaught, maybe? Yeah, onslaught. Newcomers to Oteria find themselves at the bottom of the heap. In the pits, they at least have the chance to climb atop a heap of bodies. Interesting. So it looks like a guy in armor and another guy holding a helmet. And this is not a fight scene. It looks like I can't tell what they're doing, but they're kind of just posing at rest right now. He is holding a weapon, though, the guy in armor. And the helmet that the other guy is holding looks suspiciously like a Mandalorian helmet from Star Wars. I know that the Mandalorian helmets were based on that certain style of medieval helmets with, like, the T-slit visor. But yeah, pretty cool looking. My favorite part of this card is the helmet, just because it looks Mandalorian. I don't think I have much else to say about this one. Force Mage, Advocate, Judgment. Our unity renews our strength. That's a very good flavor text. And actually an inspirational one. So it looks like an elf with a staff. He's doing some magic coming out of his other hand. There's what looks like a goblin clinging to a tree branch, which looks like the goblin's being hit by the magic. And in the background, there's another character with wings, possibly some kind of angel. I can't tell what the character in the background is doing, though. Other than that, it's got angel wings. Interesting composition here. Stronghold Discipline. Krovax never passes up an opportunity to cause widespread misery. I do recognize the name Krovax. He was in one of the early stories regarding the well, he was in one of the saga stories regarding Dominaria's war with the Phyrexians. Nemesis? I know we had that one before. I'm still in the process of memorizing all the set symbols. Yeah, Nemesis. So, okay, it's an evil-looking guy in evil-looking armor. Kind of a Dark Knight look he has going on. Flowing blue cape. And in front of him, two soldiers in white. I can't tell if the soldiers are former good guys who he possessed, or if they're bad guys working for him. The two soldiers in white, one has a bow, one has a crossbow. They're both pointing at the camera. And actually, the evil armored guy in the back is giving me a little bit of a Thanos vibe. I'm not sure if that effect was intended. I mean, this card was printed all the way back in 2000 before MCU was a thing. I know Thanos and most of the Marvel characters are much, much older than the MCU. But still, definite Thanos vibes off of this villain. Whiteout. Ice Age. So it looks like a frozen owl on a tree branch. It looks like he was frozen, based on the pose, it looks like he was frozen mid-flight. So he's sitting on his tree branch. The trees themselves are white. You can see the swirling snow, the snow swirling in the wind all around. A very, very interesting composition. I like the white. I like the all-white color palette of this card. We're just going to do a couple more. I'm getting tired. Seraph. Ice Age. Alright, Seraph. Okay. A majestic and wise-looking angel lady. She's got some nice armor. She's got very pretty wings. She almost has a Elder Princess Leia look to her. Very beautiful card. I like this one. Blinking Spirit. Don't look at it. Maybe it'll go away. Ib Halfheart, Goblin Tacticsian. So this looks like a fairy with the magic power of light. It's surrounded by little lights. Not really much. I think it's supposed to be some kind of fairy. I can't really tell. But where its face should be, it instead has a bright white light. Other than that, not much to say about this one. Keldon Battle Wagon, Prophecy. Yeah, that's Prophecy. Trample. Interesting. Okay. Basically looks like a Juggernaut war tank. You know, the fantasy medieval versions of tanks, which had all the big, giant siege wheels and all the spears pointing out? That's what this reminds me of. And it's got what looks like dark clouds coming out the back. I don't know if that's its fuel polluting the environment or the result of a fire behind it that it created. It's a very evil-looking machine for sure. Seer's Vision, blue-black. I don't know that symbol at all. Give me a moment. Invasion. Okay, so he's a wizard with a flowing scarf and a wide hat. He's blindfolded. That's a classic look of some certain types of oracle wizards. Flowing purple robes, or I think that's supposed to be brown. And he's in what looks like a cave with swirling rock behind him. There's really not much to this picture. It's a pretty good picture. Thrall Wizard. Fallen Empires again. In crafting intelligent thralls to assist in sacrifices, Sar inadvertently set the stage for the Thrall Rebellion, Sarpadian Empires. Okay, so this looks like the Thralls. This looks like some kind of zombie creature with a magic inscription tattoo on its forehead and long clawed spooky fingers. Major Halloween vibes from this guy. He almost reminds me of that demon goblin creature from Pan's Labyrinth. We're not going to talk about that movie. That was kind of a disturbing, creepy movie. Crusade. And it looks like a bunch of banners with what looks like a sphinx. Oh, that's not an angel. Is that a sphinx? I would say it's a sphinx, except it has the back half of a bee, but it's a white creature, so it's not one of the evil types. I can't really tell what that's supposed to be. But yeah, a bright white full moon, low-hanging full moon, against a bright red background. This composition screams, hey, we're going into battle. This is ominous. Things are about to happen. Interesting art. Can't really tell like what it's supposed to be, what's going on. But I do approve of this art. I really like this art. Mons Goblin Raiders starter set. Just because they have a club doesn't mean they're organized. That's another punny. That's another punny flavor text. So there's a fire behind them, and behind the fire you can see the bright crescent moon, and it's a bunch of goblins. They look getting ready to attack the viewer, with what looks like the guy in the middle leading the charge, with his outstretched arm holding a sharp-looking dagger. That dagger is longer than his head. They all look mean and angry and ready to fight. And Mons Goblin Raiders is actually an iconic card, so this would be a good place to call it for tonight. And I know we didn't do a lot of them. There's hundreds of cards from this era. So I'll definitely be back for another session of Magic cards in the future. Let me go see if there's somebody to raid. And let's go... Let's close the spell book. Let's close the spell book. And go see if there's somebody to raid. Alright. I see 3 musicians on right now. I try to do music when I can. Let's see how long they've been playing. Okay, this one's been on for only less than an hour and a half. And actually doing music tonight. This one is also doing music. She's only been on for 16 minutes, just starting her show. Interesting. And this one has been on for... Oh, they're all pretty much early on in their show. Okay. Yeah. But I rated this one recently, and she didn't acknowledge my raid, so these two. Who would I rather raid? You know what? I saw her show last week. Okay, we're gonna raid a musician named Dresdy. It's been a few months since I've had a chance to watch her show. She always comes on at the same time as all the other musicians I like to watch. It looks like she's playing guitar tonight. Let me just make sure that's what I want to do for sure. Ah, that's a cute duck suit. Alright. I don't recognize this game. She's not doing music. So yeah, let's raid Dresdy. She's in an adorable duck suit tonight for Halloween. Let's do this. Alright. I hope y'all enjoyed your Halloween tonight. I know I did. But we're going to raid Dresdy. We're going to enjoy some music. And I will see you back on Monday night for my postponed Villain Art Special. Villain Art Special. Which, technically, we're still in Halloween spirit because Days of the Dead. So, because Days of the Dead. Oh, that gives me an idea of a character I might want to try tomorrow. so much hype for Villain Night. Have a good night. Hold on, we have to wait for the raid to initiate. All right. Have a good night, everyone.